So if your experts are the brain of your case, these before and after witnesses are the heart and soul.
TBI cases can feel like navigating uncharted territory. Your client's injury is real, but proving it? That's where the real challenge begins. If you've ever felt like you're missing crucial pieces of the puzzle, you're in the right place. Welcome to Winning the TBI Case, where Tom Crosley shares the insights he's gained from over 60 injury trials. Not just the victories, but the lessons learned along the way that make all the difference. This is practical wisdom from someone who's been in your shoes and found a path forward. Winning the TBI Case. Strategy, science, and storytelling. In this episode, Tom covers how to use before and after witnesses to build emotional momentum that helps jurors truly understand the devastating impact of a traumatic brain injury. Let's join Tom as he explains how to sequence these witnesses throughout your case.
Welcome back to Winning the TBI Case. I'm Tom Crosley, and today we're talking about one of the most persuasive weapons in a brain injury case, the before and after witness. Now, we've already talked in other episodes about how you never start with the plaintiff. Instead, you lay the groundwork with science, showing the jury the brain damage before they even meet your client. But once you've got that foundation, it's time to shift gears. It's time to humanize the injury. And nothing does that better than before and after witnesses. So if your experts are the brain of your case, these before and after witnesses are the heart and soul. They make the injury real. They take those MRI scans and medical terms, and they translate them into something jurors can see, feel, and understand. And when done right, they are what can push jurors from understanding to truly caring. And that's what wins cases. So let's break it down. The best before and after witnesses, who do you pick? How do you know? Well, let's face it, not all witnesses are created equal. You don't need every friend, family member, and coworker to testify. You just need the right ones. So here's what I look for. I want a list of 15 people from that person's life. I want them from family. I want them from work. I want them from social activities. It could be, their best friends. These could be people that they've known for 40 years. They went to high school with, people from their wedding. I want them from all walks of life. I want people who have zero financial gain. They get nothing out of it. They do not have a dog in the fight. I mean, some of those people are going to be family members, and a defense lawyer could say, yeah, they stand to gain in some indirect way. But what if I have the former supervisor from the job that the plaintiff no longer has? That person has zero stake in the outcome. Those can be really powerful independent witnesses. So here's what I'm looking for. I want people who knew the plaintiff before the injury and knew them well. Longtime friends, family members, coworkers, a boss, that could be pure gold. Someone who can paint a vivid picture of who they were. Then I want people who see them now, post-injury. In a perfect world, I'd have people who could straddle that line from pre-injury to post-injury. But it doesn't always have to be pre and post. I just need the longest list I can get, and then I'm going to curate that list by interviewing everyone on it. And I'm going to pick the ones that are the most impactful. And so I want a minimum of 5. 7 or 8 is even better. Now, some people say, hey, how do you get away with having 8 different witnesses just come in to talk about before and after? And I say, because they're 10-minute witnesses and nobody is repeating what anybody else said. They're all coming in with a different story. One might tell about the barbecue, the family barbecue for somebody's 60th birthday. Another might tell about that time at work where this person, your client, used to be the human encyclopedia for, whatever the work issue was. And now they're a blank page. But you're going to figure this out because you're going to interview everybody and you're going to pick your best ones. And here's a way I often will start it off. I'll say to the person as they take the stand, I'll say, tell us who you are and how you know Paul Plaintiff. Just right into it. Oh, I'm so-and-so. We used to work together. We've known each other for 10 years. And then I say, what have you observed about how he's different since his injury? And we go right into it. Sometimes I give them a prop, a photograph, a trophy, a plaque, something that they can tangibly touch and hold, because it takes some of the edge off for them, makes them a little bit more comfortable, because they've never been in this situation before. They've never been on a witness stand. They've never been in front of a jury. And so I'm just trying to make them comfortable. And so ultimately what I'm trying to do with these witnesses is I want them to contrast who the plaintiff used to be with who they are today. Every injury case should be a study in contrast, the before versus the after. And a brain injury case, it's even more important, because the brain injury itself is often invisible. So we can't physically see the injury. We can't visualize the missing limb or whatever it is. And I also need to have people who can tell a story. So if the person has no emotion, no affect, can't hold my attention, they're probably not making it onto the witness list. And if I've done it right, all of my witnesses that are before and after witnesses, they're going to be 10, 15 minutes max. They're virtually cross-proof, meaning the defense can't really score any points with them. And if they could have scored points with them, I'm probably not bringing them as a witness. I'm in control of that part of the case. And then I want diversity of perspectives. So a spouse sees different struggles than a coworker. A best friend sees different struggles than an adult child. A mix of perspectives makes for a compelling case. Because think of it like this. Each witness is a puzzle piece. Alone, they give glimpses of the picture. But when you fit them together, the jury sees the full image of how this injury has changed your client's life.
If you're finding value in today's episode, here's how you can take your TBI practice to the next level. Subscribe to our newsletter at crosleylaw.com/podcast for exclusive case studies, resources, and trial strategies you won't hear anywhere else. That's crosleylaw.com/podcast, or click the link in the show notes below. Don't just listen to the strategies, implement them.
So how do you prep these before and after witnesses? A lot of times they haven't been deposed. Depending on the case, sometimes we'll actually do a bunch of Zoom videos of these folks. In one case, we even had a big barbecue event, and all the friends and family and people that were close to this person came, and we went and we filmed a bunch of iPhone videos. We had 30 of them, and we were able to kind of curate all those videos and pick the best ones. But however you do it, do your homework and come up with the best ones. And you're going to get the gold. You're going to cut the fluff. You're going to get right to the heart of the matter when you call these witnesses at trial. These witnesses are not professional storytellers. Depending on your client and the circle of people they run with, these people might not even, be comfortable in front of others speaking. They're going to be nervous. They might ramble. They might get sidetracked. So your job is to coach them, not script them. Big difference. Coach, not script. You're going to help them tell the story in the most compelling way. Here's how. Rule number 1, make it visual. Jurors don't remember vague statements like, he used to be sharper. They do remember, before the accident, he never missed a deadline. Now he has to set 3 alarms just to make sure he doesn't forget a doctor's appointment. You should see the fridge door now. It has so many Post-it notes on it reminding him to do this, do that. Maybe take a picture of the fridge door. Show it. In fact, that's what I would probably do. I'd get a picture of the fridge door. I'd put it up on the big screen and I'd say, hey, tell me about this. What are we looking at? Oh, God, that's our fridge door now. Look at all those Post-it notes. He has to do that to remind himself of everything. Well, did he ever used to do that? No, of course not. We used to have our grandchild's art on the door or whatever. You get the picture, though. As soon as you give that witness a crutch, I call them crutches, a photograph is a crutch. It's a way to help them get through their testimony. And it's pure gold. I mean, you don't even have to prep them. You just show them a picture and you get an honest, real reaction. So another example. He was a guy who He knew trivia. He knew every song on the radio. He could sing along with all the words. Now I was riding with him the other day and he was like, wait, who sings this song? And I'm thinking, come on, Bill, you know who sings this song. It's your favorite band, whatever the example is, but you're going to come up with examples that can send your point home. I had one from another case. It was not a brain injury case, but it was my favorite example. And it was a lady who had an injury and she now had to walk with a cane. And their tradition every year, the day after Thanksgiving on Black Friday, was to go shopping in the mall when all the stores were, doing deep discounts. And this first year after the injury, the daughter-in-law goes with the injured lady to the store. And the injured lady says, honey, I'm just going to sit here on the bench by this fountain. Why don't you go to the store and just come back and check on me in about 30 minutes? And she said that was completely out of character. This woman used to walk circles around her. She'd want to go to every store in the mall. And that's when this woman realized that this injury had taken a huge toll and changed her life. That's a very short story to relate on a witness stand, but it is so incredibly impactful because it speaks to how it has changed this person's life. Something they used to love doing that they would do with zealous energy that they can no longer do. That's the kind of gold you're looking for. So rule number 1 was make it visual. Rule number 2 is keep it short. The best before and after testimony is punchy and to the point. Jurors will zone out after a few minutes, especially if they feel like there's nothing new to be gleaned from this witness. So instead of testimony that comes across like this, hey, he's just not the same guy, it's really hard because he used to be, more energetic and now he's in a fog. That's not great. How about something more like this? Before the injury, he was the life of the party. Everybody wanted to go out when Bob was there. Now, he just sits in the corner. If we can even get him out, he just sits in the corner and stares at his phone. But most of the time, he won't even come out. So, old Bob, life of the party. New Bob, no party. That's your short, punchy, to the point. Simple, clear, impactful. Now, with these kind of witnesses, emotion can win, but you got to keep it real. So you want the witness to be genuine. The best ones aren't the ones who cry on command. They're the ones who tell the truth in a way that hits home. Maybe a choked up pause, a deep sigh before answering, something that's real, something that connects. And I find that I do not want it to be scripted. I need to know enough to know what the little story or nugget is, but I don't coach them through it. If I know the nugget, I can figure out how to ask the question to make that nugget come out. Here's another tip. I alluded to it. Use props to make testimony unforgettable. So jurors aren't just listeners, they're visual learners. A physical object helps to make testimony stick. So if a wife brings in her husband's old daily planner before the injury and it's full of appointments and to-do lists and, or now it's blank, or the old family photo album, or the golf buddy from the Saturday morning game who brings in the scorecard to show how much fun they used to have and now he really misses that. Or maybe it's the trophy. Maybe it's the golf club itself. Maybe it's the child's homework. Maybe it's the art. Photographs are always good because pictures tell a story, don't they? And the story is about contrast. So you might have the before pictures showing them doing all this stuff, living life to the fullest. So props turn words into reality. Props help non-professional witnesses, help bring them comfort because now they have something to look at and talk about. They take the nervousness down and reality wins cases. So now finally, let's talk about sequencing before and after witnesses for maximum impact. The order in which you call these witnesses does matter. Just like a great movie, you want to build tension, not throw everything to the jury all at once. So I want to start with a strong, vivid witness. It could be someone who sets the tone, a best friend who describes how they used to have beers together and talk for hours, but now the plaintiff forgets what they just said 5 minutes ago. How the conversation is, that he asked him that same question 3 days in a row. The boss who used to rely on the plaintiff for complex projects, but now assigns them the simple tasks. So this comes up a lot. We'll have people that work somewhere and we're getting great reviews. This just happened in a case I tried last month. and the boss gives them great reviews, and then they go back to work and they don't get let go because there's kind of a sense of loyalty to them. But if you really talk to the coworkers and tell them it's okay to tell the truth, they'll come in and give you stuff like, yeah, she's not the same. I mean, I hate to let her go. I'm not going to let her go, but she used to be my go-to for this. And, now we don't do that anymore. If you can get that, that's pure gold. You want something memorable that grabs attention. You also want to bring people close to the plaintiff. And I like to stagger these witnesses throughout the second half of the case. I don't want to do them all in a row. Usually I have other witnesses whose schedules are harder to predict, such as expert witnesses or doctors or economists or things like that. So I'm going to scatter in these 5 to 7 before and after witnesses throughout the latter half of the case. I totally want to bring a family member, especially a child, if they're old enough to testify, if the victim is father age. So, it could be the wife who talks about how the relationship has changed. I've been married to this man for 20 years, but this is not the same man I married. He used to care for me. Now I care for him. Or the child who says, I used to call my dad for advice. Now he calls me because he couldn't remember what day we're supposed to meet for lunch. So we want the jury hearing about the injury, but we really want them ultimately feeling its impact, that this is a life changed, that this is not the same person anymore. And we want to end with a witness who leaves a lasting impression, super compelling. Your final witness should be one who lingers in the jury's mind long after the testimony has finished. It could be a parent who says, oh, I raised him, and I always thought he'd take care of me when I got old. But now I take care of him like he's a child forever. Or it could be a spouse who says, I didn't just lose my husband, I lost my best friend. But not only are they going to say these words, they're going to give us stories. Steven Spielberg tells visual stories that we fall in love with and we remember 20 or 30 years later. We want visual stories. That's where the power is. It's a gut punch. It's the moment where jurors think, damn, this isn't just an injury. This is a life shattered. So let's bring it all together. Before and after witnesses are a must, more so than in any other type of injury case. They are a must in TBI cases to be successful. They take your case from clinical to compelling. Pick the right witnesses, interview a lot, and pick your best ones. Coach them to be clear, visual, and to the point. Use props to help make their testimony unforgettable and to put them at ease. Sequence them like a story, build, deepen, and then end with a knockout. So in the next episode, we'll talk about how to introduce the plaintiff for maximum impact, how to make jurors see and feel the injury before the defense has a chance to dismiss it. Until then, remember this. Jurors may forget expert testimony, or they may think plaintiff expert, defense expert, those two cancel each other out. But they'll never forget a story that moved them, especially a story from an independent witness that has nothing to gain. That is the power of the before and after witness. This has been Winning the TBI Case. I'm Tom Crosley.
If today's episode helped you see your current case in a new light, share it with a colleague who's facing the same challenges in a case. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and join our community of trial lawyers who refuse to settle for average results. This has been Winning the TBI Case. Strategy, science, and storytelling with Tom Crosley.